Hey houseplant friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to tell you about my favorite common houseplants. If you're like me, you got into plants by becoming really obsessed with the rare plants, the expensive plants, and you're suddenly discovering this whole world of really affordable, beautiful, wonderful common plants. I always thought of myself as someone who would probably never make like common plant content, but I have recently learned that in my own collecting journey, I have come to appreciate common plants a lot more than uncommon because they're widely accessible, they're so beautiful, they grow really fast, and I find that the community around common plants is way less toxic than the community around rare plants. So if you like common plants, go ahead and give this video a like, subscribe if you haven't joined the Planty fam yet, and maybe share this video with your friends who like rare plants for some common plants that maybe they'll like. I did rank these plants, so I'm going to be telling them to you in the order that I think that they're the coolest for me. Number one of all time is my Hoya carnosa compacta. I have 5 Hoya carnosa compacta, and probably like if we're counting strands, probably like 25 to 30 total strands of Hoya carnosa compacta. This plant is one of my favorite plants ever. It used to be considered an uncommon plant, but now you can find it at almost any big city plant store. The reason I love Hoya carnosa compacta so much is because it brings a very different vibe into your house. A lot of common plants that you might keep in your home might be like a fern or a peace lily, nothing that really kind of resembles ropes. That's, I think, why Hoya carnosa compacta is so fun, because they kind of look like jungle ropes. Something you'd see like hanging down if you're walking through a rainforest or something, and they're just these beautiful green, white, sometimes pink, with these gorgeous flowers that are just like hanging down around you everywhere. Lots of plants like to grow up, but Hoya carnosa compacta naturally default to growing down. They're a very heavy plant. The leaves, or ropes I guess, strands are heavier than normal, so they do default going down. And I am someone who does prefer trailing plants. I don't really like to put my plants up on stuff. I don't really like to see my plants climb. The care for them is also ridiculously easy. You only need to water them when they get pruny, and other than that, they're just your roommate. They're there to sit in your bright south-facing or direct, wherever direct light you got. It wants the brightest light possible. It wants to be watered only when it's pruning, and other than that, it's only there to bring you to joy. They are an incredibly slow growing houseplant though, so in tandem with that, I recommend that you try out a fiddly fig. Fiddly figs, or Ficus lyrata, are some of the fastest growing tree houseplants you can have in your home. Once you get them in a situation where they're nice and root bound, they're in a window that they like, and you're making sure you're keeping the temperature nice and even while maintaining a small breeze, this plant just really won't stop growing. I have 2 fiddly figs right now. I love both of them so much. One of them I've had for over a year at this point, and the other one I just came into ownership of. Fiddly fig care can be a little bit more difficult, but because of that, it makes you feel more like you kind of get to watch over and care for the plant. It's not so much a roommate. It really does want to be nannied a little bit. Fiddly figs are just great because they literally grow out in nature. Like, there are places in the United States where there are massive fiddly fig trees. You can have a little piece of that nature in your house, and it will make your house feel a little bit more like a jungle. I am absolutely in love with Monstera deliciosa. It's actually funny because I used to really not like Monstera deliciosa when I first got into plants. I was like, why does everyone like this plant? And back when I got into plants, people called it the turtle plant. What? And then they started calling it the cheese plant, which was like less weird, but like still weird. Monstera deliciosa is absolutely great. It grows really fast. I love the aerial roots that it will put out. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, technically 5 Monstera. They're all really big plants. 2 of them I traded for recently. Third, the one that doesn't really count, I also traded for, but it ended up just being a bunch of cuttings potted in soil, so I am rehabbing that one right now. The reason I like this plant is because it's kind of the symbol of the houseplant community. Like, if there was one plant that someone had a tattoo of on their wrist, or like a bumper sticker on their car, and it's like a Monstera leaf, you're like, okay, this person, they like plants. And I just love seeing the big massive leaves and how just wild it can grow. Think about the way that it looks. It's not quite a heart leaf shape, but just the the unique way that it grows with the fenestrations, I just think it looks so nice. It's just comforting. I want to sit under them. In terms of care, Monstera deliciosa also don't really need that much. They need less humidity than the normal house plant, so you don't need to worry about making sure your house is like over a certain percentage. I've had Monstera kept in ridiculously low humidity situations as I live in a desert, and they haven't stopped growing. The next plant on my list is the Boston fern. This plant's kind of taken me by storm. I recently, within the last month, just became super obsessed with Boston ferns. And something I really, really like about them is the fact that they're just like all over the place. Like, I think right now I want a messy plant vibe. Like, some people have like minimalist jungles that like look really nice, but you guys, I want the plants everywhere. I want them literally sprawling all over. I want them on the floor. I want like an anti-classy plant jungle living room. Aerial roots on the floor. I want to see plants hanging from the ceiling. I want to see everything like that. And I think to me, Boston ferns are just so everywhere. They also need a lot of water. They are a plant that will dry out faster than normal. So if you're looking for a plant that's gonna grow really fast, like you want some really rewarding plants to grow, like, which is what I'm doing right now. I want plants that like grow really fast. And you also want a plant that you can kind of like babysit more than normal to make you feel like you're doing more. Highly recommend a Boston fern. However, I have been told that they are pest magnets, so make sure you're checking them regularly for pests to make sure you don't attract any. When it comes to Boston ferns, I have one rehab one that I am working on growing out to be a very large, massive, beautiful Boston fern, and another one that I'm sitting right next to, which is a tiger fern, which is a variegated Boston fern. To me, they look like they have the type of variegation a Florida Beauty has, where it's yellow and green variegation, which is my favorite right now. So, plus I got this whole entire massive fern for only $25, which I think it was mislabeled because all the other ones around it were $45. And I got it for that price on accident. The next plant I want to talk about is a plant that has really surprised me lately, which is the peace lily. I have just like out of nowhere become completely infatuated with peace lilies. Again, I think it's my want right now for more like messy jungle foliage, but the other day I was at Home Depot and they had this massive peace lily and I was like, that is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And I've been collecting plants for like 2.5 years. Never have I ever desired to own a peace lily. I've never seen one in other people's photos and been like, I want that. But then in that one moment, I was like, holy, it was like the blinders were taken off my eyes and it was like, this plant is perfect. I'm also sitting in front of one. This is a peace lily I actually traded for. It's 2.5 times bigger than the one that I got at Home Depot. It is so, leaves are just huge. They do need to be watered very frequently. Like, out of all the plants on my list, the one you need to make sure that you are watering the second it starts to droop is your peace lily. They will just drink up that water, dude, and they will be so happy when you give them like even a little bit of it. This one I actually need to get a cash pot for right now because I hate having to like move it to water it. But my other one, like, I'll find that it will completely droop and deflate within like 8 hours of it starting to droop. And then within 4 hours of me watering it, it just perks right back up. I've been thinking about taking a time lapse of it, like waiting until they're both thirsty and then watering them at the same time. Doing a time lapse, I don't know, I think it'd be fun. But yeah, peace lilies are great. They take up a ton of space. They use a ton of water. They really make you feel like you're caring for plants. They also grow really fast. This one's putting out 5 leaves right now. Anyways, peace lilies are great. I love them. They're also relatively inexpensive. So also, and if you trade for plants, you're never spending money. Okay, this next plant on my list I have liked for a while, but not quite to the level that I like it right now, which is the Pubicalyx splash or Pubicalyx splash. Or I guess just the Pubicalyx in general. It's such a good plant. It grows so fast. I have one that I got a year ago from one of my channel members. They sent me some stuff to my PO box, like a whole division of theirs, and it was so beautiful. I still have it. It's actually up on my dresser. But the other day at Edwards, like maybe a month ago, I purchased a Pubicalyx. Kind of splash, kind of green. It was way more green than normal and it was only $16. and I was like, you know, I love my other one, but it doesn't really grow that fast, so I wonder if a more green one would grow faster. And I was freaking right. The one that I have right now is just taking off. Well, I guess I have both, but the new one that I just got is taking off. It's growing all over the place. Its vines are wrapping around each other. It's got new purple leaves everywhere. I actually just rotated it in my window so that hopefully it will grow more from the other side, so we can kind of keep the growth even. The next plant on my list is the spider plant. Spider plants are so cool because here's the deal. They self-pollinate, which means that every time your spider plant will flower, that flower will end up turning into a spider plant baby. So if your spider plant's flowering, don't like mess with the flowers, just let it chill. And in time, you will get a ton of spider plant babies. I have wanted a mother spider plant for so long. I've never gotten one because they're usually really expensive. But not too long ago, I was able to find one for a pretty good price at Edwards Greenhouse. I ended up cutting off quite a few of the babies to give to some of the people who are working that day at Edwards, because if I was working a job, like, I'd want free spider plant babies. Right now, she's actually putting out tons of new little babies, and I'm so excited. I do have a variegated spider plant, and it's not a curly one. I think the next step will be adding a curly mother spider plant to my collection. The next plant I want to talk about is kind of Pothos, but really there's only two that I have, so there's only two I can recommend, which is the Global Green Pothos and also the Marble Queen Pothos. My Marble Queen Pothos I got from a member. Maybe you're seeing a trade here. A trend here. I do a lot of trades, but with one of my members, they traded me a Marble Queen Pothos, which I have had for I think probably over a year now, or close to a year, and this plant is really, really nice. Mine's actually putting out some pretty white leaves as well, but I keep it in my bathroom in front of a frosted glass southwest facing window, and it absolutely loves life in there. It doesn't need too much water. I think I maybe water it like once every 2 weeks, and it perks up really, really fast. My Global Green Pothos also, it grows way faster than the Marble Queen, obviously, because it's a full green on green variegation, you know. And I keep it in a south-facing window where it gets direct light in a Wally Grove self-watering pot. That one is so good. I freaking love that plant. I do have a third Pothos. I have a Pothos Enjoy, but I don't think I really recommend this one because it's really white. And I personally let my plants dry out like a lot before I water them. And this plant, when I let it dry out to the same extent as my other ones, it takes like sometimes a full 2 or 3 days to perk back up. And I just think it's because there's just not a lot of green on it. I don't know. I just feel like it's different. It's a little bit harder in terms of Pothos, but if you want like a good, great, easy Pothos for your house that's gonna grow really fast and also be really rewarding in terms of foliage, highly recommend the Global Green. And if you can't find a Global Green, then a Marble Queen is also very good. All right, let's talk about ponytail and fishtail palms. I have a fishtail palm. I've wanted one for a really long time. I haven't had this one that I currently have for that long. Wanted one for the 2 years that I've been collecting plants. I am so grateful I get to have this one. I did purchase it. It was quite expensive. So worth, like, there's not that many times, you guys, where I buy a plant that's like over $50. Mine was $75. And then I get home and I'm like, I'm glad that I spent that money. Normally I get home and I'm like, what plants am I gonna sell to like recover from this? But this one, it's like, I would buy it again. Like if I went back in time, I wouldn't not buy it. I would literally buy it again because it makes me so happy. It just sits in my corner with its cute little leaves and soaks up the sun. What else could I ask from a plant? And then I also have been obsessed with ponytail palms for a long time. People who have watched my channel for a minute will know I've always been looking for the right ponytail palm. For about a year and a half, I have been hunting for the perfect ponytail palm. I have never found one until I found this lady who wants to trade with me for, well, we already did half the trade. She's already taken all the Hoyas that I don't want anymore. But she's trading me her 35-year-old, 11-foot tall ponytail palm that she grew from a teeny tiny baby. She's wonderful. I love it. That ponytail palm I'm adding to my collection this week. I'm very excited. I think next on my list is a Majesty palm, but those are so expensive. All right, and the last plant on my list is the Begonia maculata and the Begonia fedora. They're the same thing on the list because they're both begonia. But Begonia maculata I've had for a long time. I became smitten with this plant pretty immediately into getting into plants about 2.5 years ago. And I've had at least one throughout my collection this entire time. I've never not had one. Begonia maculata whitei is one of my favorite plants. I think I might have actually gotten it in 2020. I've had it for so long and it is getting big. I think I'm gonna probably notch it here soon, but this plant's really great. It's really easy. You just put it somewhere that has bright and direct light to medium light. You water it whenever it droops. It does visibly droop, even though it's a cane begonia, and I just love it. Absolutely love it. Highly recommend, especially if you're wanting to try out begonias or get into begonias for the first time. You can also find them pretty cheap now. Sometimes big box stores will have them. Like my grocery store gets them sometimes for $5 and maybe sometimes I'll buy it. The other begonia I want to talk about is Begonia Fiddle. This is one that you can get at your local Lowe's or Home Depot. It is so cute. And to me, like, I don't know what it is, but this plant is just perfect to me. It's got these beautiful silver leaves, these red stems. It is a rhizomatous begonia, so it is a little bit more difficult. They do need to be kept a little bit more wet than other begonias. The one that I have right now, I kept actually in my grow tent for like a really long time. I paid only $10 for the one that I have, and it came in a beautiful white ceramic pot, so I'm pretty happy about that. But this plant is super easy. It takes low light, medium light to bright and direct light, and it will always be happy. So that's it. Those are my favorite very common plants. I hope that you like them. I have loved working all these plants into my collection. I think they're all so beautiful and each have their own little sparkle to add to my plant collection. I hope you guys are liking more of the common plant content lately. I'm really into common plants. They are becoming my new obsession because you can put them anywhere. You can style your whole space with them. It's not like you're looking at plants behind like a closed door. It's like the plants are literally like in your hair and sitting on you. And anyways, thanks so much for watching my video. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and also tweet me at PlantMeAshley. Follow me on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and Twitch at PlantMeAshley as well. And don't forget to join the YouTube channel memberships. They're only $5 a month. They are a super fun time. If you're looking for houseplant friends and you can't seem to find them, highly recommend joining the Plant Me Members Discord. We are always talking in there all day long, and there's weekly events all the time. I'll see you guys in the next houseplant section, hopefully window shopping for more common plants. Bye.